Welcome to the Writing Gals. We are four sweet romance authors staying up late and answering all of your questions. Welcome tonight, to the Writing Gals. Ooh, is that from me?
If someone's watching it live, you're getting an echo.
Sorry, I think that might have been me. I was just switching it off.
Okay, we're keeping it real. Okay. We are talking about what to do when you're not rapidly releasing. What is our beyond rapid releasing? There you go. I made it. It was genius when I came up with it on Facebook, and then I can't remember it. So yes, but first of all, we're going to talk about what we're doing and where we're at. So Victorine, why don't you tell us what you're doing?
I just finished my next novel in my Rockford High series. So I'm super excited about that. That's going to launch on the 15th. And then I'm starting the next one and already several chapters in. And it's going to be a famous actor trope. So teen actor gets to meet regular teen. And I love that trope. So that's going to be so fun to write.
Yay, that's exciting. Well, we can't wait to see the next one come out and have you finish it. So yeah. Okay, Michelle, what are you up to?
Trying to find my unmute button. I am working on some Regency again, which is really exciting, and I'm trying out the marriage of convenience trope, which is always a little bit delicious and challenging at the same time. So I'm excited to try that. And then I am playing around with some more fantasy for fun. So I'm actually trying this whole thing where I'm writing 3 books at one time again, because when I've done that, I've been successful at getting books finished. And I apparently need some novelty in my life instead of just writing the same thing for 4 months at a time. So I am switching things up and starting to have more fun again. So that's exciting.
That's awesome. Self-care is super important. And even when you come like just to the basic of writing, taking care of yourself and writing the things that you want, that keeps your inspiration and your imagination going is very important. So we're excited for you. And
I also painted Acorn, huh?
You rock at the multi-books at a time thing. So
yeah,
I give you props for that.
That's my jam. And I also painted acorns with nail polish today. So, you know.
You're living the life now.
I know. I'm like crafting it up over here.
That's awesome. All right, Judy, what are you up to?
So I have been just taking it easy. I haven't done any writing pretty much for a month, which is awesome for sales, of course. I decided to switch gears, and instead of doing or adding to one of my series, I decided to add to a different one. So I'll be, hopefully getting started on that next week. I'm right now I'm researching, so I'm listening to an audiobook and just enjoying that. And I redid a blurb, and so that's what I did this week.
You really practice everything we talked about last week or last time you were here.
Yeah, so I made my book go down to 99 cents. I set up a couple promotions, and redid my blurb, and asked about my cover, and
So did it work? Has it worked?
So it has made my rank get better, but it's been making about the same amount of money. So I don't know if it made this super good thing, but I'm hoping that when I do switch the price back up to full price, that it will hopefully stay at a better place, but who knows? It was worth a shot. So,
well, and hopefully we're getting out of August, out of the drum of August and into the fall season where reading gets picked back up again. So
yeah, hopefully.
Yay. And for me, I finished Her Ex, which is the fourth book of my Braxton series. My kids went back to school on Tuesday, and my oldest has to get up and on the bus by 7. So I'm up by 6:30 to get him there. So I've been doing a lot of writing in the morning, which is awesome because I have kids that get on the bus at 7 and then kids get on the bus at 9. So there's a big gap of time that I'm just sitting around. So I figure I might as well do my reading or writing then. And so it's amazing when I get my writing done in the morning, how much time I have in the afternoon to do whatever I want. So I've been painting and putting up picture frames and redecorating and stuff like that. So I'm loving that. And my publishing house is going to do some collaborations and an anthology. So I'm getting started on collecting submissions for that. So that's pretty exciting. And then just plotting the rest of, you know, the time. Amazon's changed its pre-order, so you can now pre-order a year out. And I'm trying really hard not to set up all my pre-orders. It's kind of nice that they require you to have some sort of blurb. So if I'm not putting up so many because I don't want to lock myself into certain storylines and plots. But yeah, we've got a couple months ahead of us. We got some Christmas time and things like that. So we're pretty excited. And to kind of go off the back of last time we talked, where it was about launches, we thought we would talk about beyond rapid releasing, because as authors, we hear the only way to make money is to rapidly release. And the more we're doing that, the more we're finding out that might not necessarily be true. So we wanted to answer your guys' questions as best we can for what we think that it's not just rapidly releasing that's going to make you the money. We hear these stories of people who go, oh, I've made $300,000 in the first 3 months of my book, which is amazing and great. But, you know, a book's lifespan is forever. So, you know, it sells really well the first part of it, but at some point those sales are going to drop off. And we wanted to discuss, what do you do with books that maybe don't launch as great, or they didn't get sticky like you wanted to, but they're still words, they're still books, there's still things that you can get in front of people. So we wanted to address those questions. So we'll just jump right into our first question by Nomi Summers. She says, great topic. Let's say you're launching book 3 of a series. What do you do with books 1 and 2 during the launch? Price point, promos, ads, free day, countdown, deal, etc. Thanks. So for me, I normally just keep my books 1 and 2 at full price, because I am doing so much pushing towards book 3 that I find when I launched book 2 and book 3 of Her Protector and Her Best Friend, all the ranks of the previous books went up really high and started selling really well, just because of the visibility of book 3. But if you're not one to be pushing a bunch of ads to book 3, there's definitely other ways to get visibility with books 1 and book 2. So I'll let the other ladies answer that.
Well,
Yes.
I've done all kinds of things. I put like book 1 at 99 cents and then throw an ad or 2 at it and things like that. So, you know, it really kind of depends on the series. If it's a 2-market series that's really got a lot of traction, you probably don't have to discount book 1 and 2, like Amy said. If it's a series that hasn't gotten a lot of traction, then yeah, discount it and push some ads to it.
Yeah, and it also depends on if it's like a standalone series versus like a continuous story where you need to read book 1. So if you do have a continuous story, it probably is a really good idea to set book 1 at 99 cents just to get people into it. And then another thing that I did with my book 3, the only book 3 I've ever written, because I only have one series that I did more than one book in. And that one was I set one of the books in that series for free. I think I set book 1 for free when I released that one, and it did really well. So that's another thing you can do.
Yeah, I usually try and do a free day on the first book at like a strategic point in the launch of the third one, just one day to kind of boost that first book up and try and grab new readers. But with this current series I'm on, I think I'm waiting till the 4th book is out to do that free day on the first in the series. And really with this series, it's kind of it's not doing as well as I would have liked it to do, and I'm kind of banking at this point on waiting until the whole series is out and then really promoting the whole series and probably pushing some ads towards the first book. But I'm not going to do that until all the books are out. I'm also going to put a box set out. So book 3, it depends on like what your plans are for the rest of the series. For me, it's in the middle of my series, so it's, you know, not the right time for me to be pushing yet. And so I'm getting to the end of my series before I'm going to put a whole lot of effort behind it.
Right. And Sally Hansen says she wanted to know answers for continuous series as well as standalone. And my Braxton Brothers series is standalone, but they are kind of sort of interconnected, just in the sense that they know each other and you get a sense of the next character in the current book. So I kind of think I can do full price for my other ones because it doesn't have to be read. I'm just trying to think, if you were releasing book 3 of a series where you had to read book 1 before you got to book 3, I would say for me, it would probably be important just to always have book 1 like maybe permanently free or 99 cents. And that's the one that you really push ads to get through the read through, and then focus on your mailing list. And then maybe retargeting ads to people who have already, sorry, I have a hair in my mouth, who have already clicked on, who've already clicked on your ad if you're going to do like a Facebook ad, or perhaps maybe rerun, like if you ran a promo with ENT, maybe try to get another one just on that book, just so people are seeing that book 3 is now out. And I would also, if you run Facebook ads, I would make it a big deal that this book is now, it's new, it's released, book 3, so you don't miss out, so that it's not just you're trying to just bring them in by your ad copy because that's what's going to sell the book. You wanted to find these people who clicked on it and say, it's what you've been waiting for. You read book 1 and book 2. Book 3 is now live. So if it was a continuous series, I would do that way. I think with standalones, you can really just keep kind of things the way they are and just really push book number 3. So, but I've never released a continuous one, and so I am not 100% sure how to do it, but that would be the only way I think it would make sense to me if they had to read book 1 and book 2 to get to book 3. Okay, is that good? Are we good? Perfect. Rachel Bloom asks, my question, if you can't release quickly enough to put a pre-order link in the back of book number 1 for book number 2, what would you include in your back matter? Well, if you can write a book faster than a year, you can do it now.
All right.
Yeah, true. Or what I've done, because I don't rapidly release, is I've just, if you have at least a cover, you can put the cover there and say, and maybe make up a tagline and just say, but if you would like to be notified of when this is released, join my newsletter here. And so that's what I've done. And I get people subscribing. Don't know if that's why, but
And you can also do, go ahead, Victory.
What I've done in the past is when I wrote the first of my Rockford High series, I was going to write another book in another series afterwards, and I wasn't sure when the next book would come out. So I made a landing page on my website that said coming soon, and the book cover and a blurb. And I did what Judy did. I said, join my email list in order to get an announcement when this next book comes out.
Well, and with what Victorine did, which maybe I'm not sure with like Judy, if you say it's coming soon, I think later on, even once the book is live, you might be turning off people that won't click on through. So you just say, click here for the next book, and then take them to a landing page that says something like that, just because then you can use a smart URL, and then you can just change that link. So no longer are they going to the landing page. Now they're going straight to your Amazon. Because if, let's say, people buy a book, they put in their Kindle, they don't read it, and your book's already gone live, then you can actually catch those sales instead of losing them. And you can also put a Facebook pixel on a lot of links, and that way you could then retarget those people and saying that the book is live. But that's Facebook pixels are a beast in them of themselves, but it's an option to do. Okay, Michelle, is that good? You have some? You're good? Okay. Stephanie Martin said, what about relaunches? Why do it? When? How? Do you unpublish first or just update everything?
So if it's a complete relaunch, then you would unpublish first. You can probably keep the paperback up, and then that way you can keep the reviews. Unless you changed a whole lot of things, then you probably don't want to do that. But like me, I'm like getting excited. Like 5 years from now, I'm going to relaunch my series, and then it's just new money. So, yeah, I think they're a good idea. And I know that they do work. I know Julia Chianini, she relaunched one of her series. She did change some things to make it fit into a different category a little bit better. But they have been in the top 100 of that category for the last year, or at least one of them has been, where they were not before. So they can definitely be a good idea.
So she asked why relaunch. One of the reasons why you should relaunch is to keep everything fresh. So go through all your books, and if you wrote them long enough that everybody's using flip phones, make them all smartphones, update things like that. Things change in 5-10 years. So update all the information on the inside and put a new fresh cover on. Trends change over time. So what was grabbing everybody's attention 5-10 years ago might not be grabbing everybody's attention today. So I've been really seriously toying with the idea of changing all of my married series covers to men on the front, because men just right now seem to be selling books a lot better than women. I just hate to do that because they're my brides and I love them.
And
I feel the same way.
Yeah, and it's just a great way to catch a new audience too, because the people that would be buying them now maybe weren't around when they were first launched.
Yeah.
So yeah, and trends change more quickly than you realize. And so with my Christmas series, I've been looking at it a lot the last few days because I'm looking to the Christmas season. And with Christmas, it almost is like a relaunch every year because you have minimal sales throughout the year on the series. And then when Christmas comes around, you want, your Christmas books to be moving and doing something and working for you. That's their time. And so I'm looking at recovering my book 1 and 2 in my Christmas series as I launch the third one, so that it all has a new, fresh look for the new Christmas season. I'm probably going to go through and update the blurbs because I've learned a lot about blurbs since I wrote those, and link everything better because I've learned more about that. I think a lot of times relaunches are just like a lot more than you did when you first did it, and it's not just that the market might have changed, it's that you've learned a lot more and you have a lot more tools in your toolbox that you can use and take advantage of them, and don't just let your books kind of simmer there in your previous ignorance. If you know what I mean. Like, bring everything up to date with everything that don't just put all your new knowledge on your new books. And you got a lot of selling in those books to go yet. Sometimes if I look at how many copies I've sold in my book and I compare that to how many potential readers there are out there, I see like I might feel like I've sold to everybody who might possibly read my book. I think Amy says this a lot all the time. Like, there's so many more people out there to read your book still, and you just have to figure out how to get your book to those people. So don't ever feel like you've completely used all your readers up. Like, oh, everybody's read my book. No, they haven't.
And I would say there's 2 ways you can do it. You can relaunch, where you just recover and then update and redo the blurb. For something like, because you said how, I would say that would be a point where I would run a massive sale on all my books, gather all new readers. Because the nice thing about redoing the current ASIN number is that it won't allow people who have purchased the book in the past to repurchase the book. So you can target your fans, and then they go to the page and they're like, oh, wait a minute, I already bought this book, I own it. If you retake it down and you do a new ASIN, then people who have purchased your book in the past can purchase this again. And that's when you would want to be really clear that this is a republished version. And if there's major changes, I would say complete overhaul to the plot and the storyline, and so that way people know what they're getting and they're not reading and going, wait a minute, this sounds really, really familiar for something that I've read before. So just keep that in mind. Also, I would say if you were going to do something like this would be the great time to visit paperbacks and audiobooks, because that's a whole nother way of reaching a whole different other type of reader, especially with audiobooks. And I think audiobooks are becoming a lot more popular. There's 2 ways you can do it. You can do pay it outright, which is a lot of investment for you up front, but you get a lot more of the profits. Or you can do royalty shares, where you split royalties with your audiobook artist, and then you don't have to put anything up front. You just say, for the next 7 years, you and I will split profits. But if you think about it, if you're going to spend time pushing people, all sorts of people, to your Amazon product page, you might as well try and gather as many as you can from different avenues, because there's people who are like, I don't have time to read, but I love to listen to an audiobook. And then you can get those readers, and it's just another way to make money and just get more people into your brand. So I would say, if you're going to do it, really think about all the different ways you can reach a reader, and maybe that's where you kind of put your money in, and then you can do that sort of rapid release where you push all the books at once, because you already have them written. Now you're just kind of giving them a whole new life and reaching a whole new group of readers. And you asked if they work, and yes, relaunches definitely work. As long as you're doing your research and you're making sure that your books are on point, and all those sorts of things. However, I do think there are trends in reading. So right now, like, I recovered my married books. Well, I recovered my married box set, and it still has not sold like my billionaire box set has, but those books are over 1.5 years old. So that's another great way to make more money. But I just know it's not a trend right now, so I'm not going to really push those books. It's important that you look in the top 100 and say, if I was to invest this time and invest this money into these older books, are they going to give me a profit? Are there going to be readers out there? And maybe there's not. Maybe you're just like, right now, this is not what people are looking for, and I'm just going to be okay with them not doing anything right now and just kind of sitting in the background. And then that's when you would utilize free days and all those sorts of things, because they're a little bit cheaper and you can get a bigger reward in the end and just gather more readers. Okay, Stephanie Martin says, what's the best way to get a bump in your backlist sales? Is it worth doing a book bub on an older book?
Book bub's always a good idea, I think.
Yes, as long as it's not like a $500 new release alert, because I don't know if I think they're still working the bugs out of that, and I don't know if I'd be the one to say, go spend that money on a new release alert.
Yeah, if you can get a featured ad deal, that's what I would do.
Yes.
Yeah. So always try for a book bub. Now, what about the best way to get a bump in your backlist sales?
Free day. That's what I would do.
Yeah, because people don't know if they like you until they read something of yours. And so that's a great way to reach new people.
Mm-hmm. But you have to also be realistic. So you could have 10,000 downloads and you'll see a bump, but that might not necessarily mean that they're all going to read through. But you should definitely see some sort of increase.
If you're putting ads on the free day, don't just make it free and not tell anybody.
Yeah. And you have to be intentional with your free day. So there's a certain rank where if you don't hit that or higher, you're really just not going to have that big of a boost when you come off the free day. So if you're going to do a free day, I say go all out and do a big free day. Get as many promotions that you possibly can, and get that. Because if you're like, well, I bought one and I made it free and I gave away 500, I don't think that's going to be enough to really, when your thing flips, for you to see a big boost. So really, if you're going to do it, lean into it.
I always try really hard to hit 10,000 giveaways. That's my goal. Anything above that, I really see a nice boost, a nice tail from. Anything below that, I just don't see the nice tail.
YA doesn't get that high unless I have book club. Like 3,000 is good for me. That's like, I'm like, okay. And I get a little bit of a tail, but I'm sure it's not nearly as amazing as 10,000.
Also doesn't sink as fast in range as adult.
Yeah. So you don't need as much to raise it.
So just know your genre, I guess, to know what to aim for.
And speaking of genres, I was going to say that for any of you who write multiple genres like me or have multiple series, if you do a free day, it's pretty much only going to raise or boost that series, right? So if I do a free day on one of my contemporary adult romances, then I can expect that it's going to bump the rest of the books in that series. It might have a trickle-down effect to some of my other adult contemporary series, maybe, but it's not going to do anything for my young adult. It's not going to do anything for my Regency or my fantasy. People aren't going to go, oh, this author's great, I'm going to read everything she's got. People are pretty much going to stick with books like the one that you had free. So just keep that in mind. So I not only have to bounce a few books up with free days, I have to be watching all my different genres and doing the same thing for all of them at the same time, which is another reason why only write multiple genres if you really have the energy for it, because it gets tricky.
Yeah. And also, when you do a free day, make sure that you do have links in the back to direct readers to go to the next book in the series, or even in your next series. If it's a box set, go to the next series, find how to find you, and make sure you have your newsletter link. So, I mean, these are kind of things that we kind of forget about because we do it so monotonous. But before you have a free day, make sure that's all lined up so that you know whatever file you send out there is going to be the most profitable for you. And also make sure that the file you have in your book for free day is the correct book, because I've heard horror stories of people who put the wrong file up and then they get like 1 million one-star reviews because they got the wrong book. So make sure all that stuff is good to go. Eliza Boyd says, what is the best way to continue to market in the months between launches? Things to include in your newsletter, how to stay connected to readers so you're still relevant, etc. Something beyond Facebook and AMS ads. She must think I talk too much about Facebook and AMS ads, because she specifically said not that. I'm just kidding. Well, I know a few authors who really talk about their current work in progress in their newsletters. And she also pushes her pre-orders a lot. So she's like, oh, if you haven't pre-ordered it, make sure you pre-order it. She starts her book's launch with pretty high number pre-orders. So I think just reminding people that you not to forget to pre-order. And honestly, people are like, well, I think I'm going to bug my reader. But if you think, I mean, if I was to get a newsletter, and read and I'd be like, oh, I already pre-ordered it, that's not for me. They'll probably just assume that you're talking to the people that have joined the newsletter since then. So I don't really worry so much about that. But also in your newsletter, having those links active at every point. So make sure your cover is clickable. Make sure, just the name is clickable. Make sure you have a list down at the bottom. It still shocks me how many sales or clicks I get on my bottom list of books that I have to my newsletter that I've released a long time ago. So make sure that you have all of those things in your newsletter.
There's really not tons and tons of things. Like, it's not like there are 30 things out there you can do. There are a few things that work really well, and you just have to use those things. And maybe someday somebody will come up with something brilliant and new that we don't all know. But yeah, pretty much it's writing new books and it's running promotions on the first in series, or what you've got out, and putting ads towards it. And that's pretty much what you can do to make a big, significant push behind something. Otherwise, it's just the constant daily little things. Like Amy said, having links to your backlist on your newsletter, making sure that your website is attractive and clickable, and that people are finding your website, and make sure that you have a presence in whatever social media you decide to do. But those are only going to be little pittery things. If you really want to do big things that are going to significantly raise your backlist, you're going to have to do the ads, the promotions, and putting new books out.
Well, and I think you do different things to meet different requirements, right? So you want to have your newsletter active because those are your current fans. You want to keep them happy. There's also Facebook groups you can do. I've discovered I'm not great at a Facebook group. I don't really enjoy it. There are people who love it, and I give mad props to them, but I just feel weird, and I don't know. It doesn't feel genuine for me. I feel I'm more genuine in my books, just writing them. So those are ways to retain current readers that you have, because really, honestly, the people who are on your newsletter and the people who are in your Facebook group, they are your super fans, and they most likely own all of your books, and they love that. So that's a way you can keep current readers. But the only way you're going to be able to find new readers is by doing ads. And it doesn't have to be a Facebook or AMS ads. It's doing free days, going out there and finding new readers. So it's basically two different pathways that you have to take, and you kind of have to do both in order to kind of stay relevant and alive in this industry. Yeah, okay, perfect. Karina Gilly asks, what to do with a book that fell off the cliff when you don't have a pending release? What to do with books that fell off the cliff? when you don't have a pending release. So what to do with books
Do a
if you don't have
3-day or a 99-cent sell. That's all, Facebook ads.
because there's a push that Amazon's going to give you, and then after that, a lot of it's going to be up to you to figure out how to get that moving. So,
And I will say this, if you've written a book and you're trying to market that book, and it feels like you're walking through sludge, and it's so hard to get somebody to even try your book, sometimes books just fall. I've had books just fail for one reason or another, and you don't know why exactly sometimes, but sometimes books just hit the audience much better than other books. So I have books that I don't market just because they're books that are harder to market. So write another one.
Yeah. That's usually my plan.
and that's a great idea too, because then you're not just putting money into something that's not necessarily giving you stuff back. You can save that money, write a book that will market better, and then focus your money and your attention on that. And what I did with a book that didn't do really super well for me, it did decent, but then it just wasn't selling. I just took it down, and that became my freebie book that I gave to people. So there's other uses that you can use with that book that doesn't necessarily have to be, I have it on Amazon, it's making me money. I have it perma-free, or I have it in my newsletter and I'm just giving it away. Okay, Candy and Mike says, what are the best practices to set up an effective pre-sale book launch?
Just put it up and tell your newsletter about it. I wouldn't do ads on it. So
I've done ads on a pre-order book launch, and it has gotten me sales. I actually did an ad on the first ever billionaire book I put out, and I think I started when it launched. It was like 7 days, and I had 50 sales on it. I knew I was going to be at a loss, but I was okay with that. Because to me, it tells me a lot of information. So if I'm sending people to it and I'm not getting pre-orders, then that tells me there's something wrong with my cover and blurb, which actually can help when you launch your book. Because then you're like, okay, here are issues that I'm seeing. Let me try and change it and see if that actually increases sales better. So that tells me that. Also, if I'm sending people from Facebook there, it's a warm audience I can retarget once it goes live, where I can do like, it's live, go grab it. You liked this thing enough to click on it. Now you can actually click through and get to buy your book. But this is an investment. So it's not necessarily going to be money you're actually going to get back in your pocket. And I've done it too, where I have given the first 3 chapters away to collect email addresses so that I can then email them back. And then at the end of the 3 chapters, have the pre-order, because I'm like, well, you read these 3, and if you like them, then go pre-order it. And it's actually worked really well for me. I've gotten quite a lot of pre-orders just that way. So not only am I connecting them as a newsletter subscriber, but I'm also getting pre-orders. So that's, if I was to do something, that's probably what I would say is the best thing for you to do, just because you're kind of killing 2 birds with one stone. You might as well be maximizing your dollars. But if you don't have dollars, I would probably say put it up and tell fans that you have, and then, just kind of, wait and see what happens. Yeah. Unless it's a link in the back of your book.
I think I'm more and more moving away from doing pre-orders. The only reason I still am doing them on my young adult series is because I'm just trying to not lose readers from book to book, since it's such a tied-in series. But at the same time, I think I prefer having the just regular launch without the pre-order. I don't worry that much about pre-sale and getting hype on my pre-orders and getting people moving there, because I honestly don't know that it does tons for you unless you have major pre-orders and they're coming in quickly right before your launch, and then I think you have the problem of managing a early, swift, high rank when you launch. And so, it's got its own, issues and benefits, and it's going to work different for everybody. But for me, I'm moving away from doing pre-orders. So.
Well, and even genres, because I hear Mark Dawson, he's like, I started out and I had 15,000 pre-orders on my book, and he has thrillers. And so, I mean, romance readers, I think they'll go there and they'll be like, oh, it's not launched, I'll just move on to the next book. So, I mean, it might not be as effective, but if you have like, you know, something that it takes a while, people, I think it's great for people who don't want to forget that they want that book. So then they'll go there and they're like, oh yeah, I really liked this series. I want that book from that author. I'm just going to go ahead and grab it.
And I think it's great for people who are wide and who are trying to make a list too, you know, because the ability to build up all your sales for that big launch day works really well for people who are wide and trying to make a list or just trying to build a presence, you know, wide. But on Amazon specifically, I think pre-orders are problematic.
Oh, you just muted yourself.
It doesn't mean I'm not tempted or that I'm not super just, you know, putting a lid on myself to not go and make a bunch of pre-orders, because it just sounds so fun to have your book up and have people finding it and buying it. But when I compare my launches with pre-orders to my launches without them, they just don't do as well.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
And I find that they work for me. So
And everybody's different, right?
And everybody's different. Everybody has different plans, and I get mixed like feedback from people about whether or not having pre-orders does affect your rank at the beginning. I believe that they do, but it might not be the case. But I have then learned to adjust. You know, how am I going to make sure that my rank doesn't spike really high and then drop back down? So, and those are the only things you're going to learn by releasing and by trying things. And like, that's what we all did. You guys all tried pre-orders. You tried pre-orders at full price, and you're kind of adjusting from there. Do I want to continue doing that or do I not? And there's a time and a place. So don't ever cut things off and say, absolutely not, I'm never going to do that. You know, try things out. Maybe something doesn't work this time will work next time, and that sort of thing. Okay. Jessica Faden, author, says, how close together or far apart do you suggest releasing books if you have a backlog in 2 to 6 months, etc.? Suggest releasing books if you have a backlog. I'm not exactly sure what she's asking here.
Like
Backlist.
a books already written?
So if you have them all written, I'd rapid release it every 2 to 3 weeks. If you don't, then just publish them as fast as you can. So for me, I publish every 3 to 4 months or sometimes 6 months. So just whatever.
I would definitely not sit on books if you can release them. But if you have, let's say you have like 2 or 3 books in a series and you only have 1 or 2 more, I might sit on them a little bit longer and then rapidly release. When everybody I talk to, the sweet spot for rapidly releasing is like anywhere from like 2 to 3 weeks after your first one goes. But you can do that the first, second, and third. And then by then, if you have somebody who's read all the way to the 3rd book, you can grab them and you can actually wait a little bit longer because they are invested. And so you can wait maybe 4 weeks, 5 weeks to release 4 and then release 5. But if you're going to do any type of rapid releasing, I would try to get at least 1, 2, and 3 out as fast as possible. And then you can lengthen the time between the other books.
Yeah, I think my best success has been anywhere between 3 and 8 weeks. I've done just fine with books releasing 2 months apart. My preference is 4 weeks.
Yeah. I would say, 3 or 4 weeks. I would say a little bit longer just because I want people to actually get around to reading the books and then wanting the next book. But then I think in that term, if you're rapidly releasing, then having a pre-order is probably the way you're going to want to take things. Okay, so Jennifer Brady says, I know you all recommend newsletter swaps. I have 2 questions related to that. My series is not in a popular genre, which is something I definitely plan to change for my next series. However, it means there aren't newsletters out there for me to swap. If newsletter swaps aren't a possibility, what would you do to revive an older series? The backlist is pretty deep with 7 books.
But that I would try to look for some of the like book funnel promos or something like that where you can link up to series that are similar enough to yours that you might be able to attract the same readers, and build your own newsletter, obviously, and use the newsletter paid newsletter sites as much as you can. And, there are a lot of genres where you don't have that power. So when I write fantasy, there are probably a lot of fantasy authors I know that I could probably reach out to, but we don't write the same kind of fantasy, and we don't write the same steam level in our fantasy romance. And so it's, a lot more difficult to make that connection with their readers and their readers with mine, or their books with my readers. And so newsletter swaps don't work out as well for me in fantasy. So it's something that is a great tool for my contemporary romance and my adult romance and Regency. But for my fantasy, I just have to have a whole new bag of tricks. And I'm still trying to figure out what that is. But mostly it's going to be ads, I think, with fantasy and using paid newsletters.
And I would see what you mean by not a popular genre. I mean, you might be surprised that maybe your interpretation of the books are not exactly unsellable in that sense. So I would be interested. I'm really interested to know what genre you're right now, because I'm like, I wonder what's not popular to read in. Okay, so her other question is, I'm going to start a new pen name. I want to have several ready to go before I publish the first one, so it will be quite a while before I put any books out. I know it's good to establish a Facebook page and start trying to get people subscribed to my newsletter even before I have books. Should I be approaching authors and offering to promote their books in my newsletter without having something to offer them for their newsletter in return, or is that just weird?
Do it. Authors will love you.
Yeah. Start establishing relationships now. I'd say go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everyone loves free promo.
Starting a Facebook page is great, but I would not say that would be my focus would be. I would I would put together some kind of book funnel link and say, but let authors know that this is a free book to gather newsletter subscribers, and say, I'll promote your book free for my newsletter. Will you put this in yours? And some will say yes, and some will say no. I would say probably before any of that, though, get a reader magnet written, or use one of your books to gather newsletter subscribers. So, but I mean, what I have learned is you already know the answer if you never ask. So just ask. And the worst thing they can say is no. Then you're like, okay, thank you for your time. Don't be mean and don't harass them and don't be obnoxious. Just say, hey, will you send? And I think you'll find a lot of authors are pretty accommodating. Okay, Laura Winter asks, would you recommend having the first in series priced at 99 cents, especially if you don't want to do any free days?
That's a good idea.
Yep.
And I think, again, it depends on whether or not the books are interconnected.
Yeah, true.
Very true. Yeah. I think I have some series where book 3 and 4 always sell better than book 1 and 2, and they're not interconnected. And so I'm not nearly as worried on those series as having my first book at 99 cents. I just keep it at full price because it's actually the later books in the series, I suspect, funneling back towards that one, if anything. So it's just kind of an interesting thing. You got to figure out what your series is doing and what's keeping it alive. And honestly, if my series are staying above a certain rank, then I don't lower the price down either. If it's holding happy around 10,000 or so, I don't mess with it. I just keep my price there because that's where you're earning money. So,
and I think people are really drawn into big sale 99 cents. So maybe keeping it at 99 cents lowers the draw to people wanting to grab it right now while it's on sale, which is why Kindle Countdown, Amazon made it that way, because people feel that pressure to buy now, because if not, I only have 4 hours to get it at this price and then it's over. So if it is an interconnected majorly, then I would keep it at 99 cents. If not, I maybe would try upping it and see what happens. The great thing about publishing is you can up it, and if it's not working, you can lower it back down. So adjust and try. Okay, Christine Harms asks, what's the best spacing so that you don't eat into your own profits? Which I'm not quite sure what release would eat into her profits. I'm guessing
don't release every single day.
Yeah, maybe. You might overwhelm your readers a little bit if you're releasing every single day.
I've been pretty good at that so far.
I know, that's not my problem.
I'm really good at that.
I wonder if she means how much you're investing as far as ad spend, and whether or not you're giving your book time to earn money back before you're throwing more ads at another book. And because it's interesting. I don't know. I was randomly reading some things about marketing and when you reinvest your money, and if you're reinvesting your money and getting a profit from it, then obviously that's a good thing. But if you're just constantly, if you don't have the data to see whether or not you're getting a return on it yet, and you're just continuing to throw money at it, then it's really hard to tell if it's the wise choice. And you need data for that, right? And so sometimes you got to give things some time and see what happens, after 2 weeks and 4 weeks and 2 months out, and figure out what the best strategy is as far as your finances.
Yeah, and you can watch like the bestsellers in your genre and see if they're staying, as the bestsellers, and then just watch how often they're releasing and try and do that.
I would say though, if you have everything in order, besides releasing, I would not release with like in a week, but 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. If you want to rapidly release, I would say that's good. The nice thing that we've all noticed is that we could have a series, write in it, go away for it for a while, come back, write in that series again, and it will raise all the ranks of the other books, just because you are getting new readers and they're going back through and they're reading the backlist. So I think in terms of length of time, you probably won't need into your profits. But I think we would need a little more data before we could be like yes or no. And you have to remember, it takes a while even for page reads to start to show up and to really start maximizing. I think I don't start seeing really good page read numbers until like day 7 or 8. So how am I going to know, if this book is doing what it's supposed to? I can watch rank, but that doesn't give me a whole lot in comparison to page read. I do know though, however, if you are like paying a lot at the beginning to boost your rank, and then all of a sudden you take all the things down and then it just slips down, that's where you're going to be eating into your own profits, where you're still in the red instead of the green. And then now your book is slipping into invisibility and you're not being seen anymore. And then now that break even point is getting farther and farther away from you.
Yeah, I don't know that you can actually cannibalize your own sales by releasing too often if you're keeping it within like that 2 to 4 week period. But if you release like, I've seen people release like a whole series that they've been saving up and release like every 2 or 3 days. And I think you can kind of overwhelm your readers. So it's not so much cannibalizing your sales as overwhelming your readers. But if you can stick within a healthy rate apart. So in my Regency House Party series, we release a book every week, and we did that one time, and we didn't have that problem. We didn't overwhelm our readers or cannibalize our sales. It just had a growing effect for everyone. So I think I don't know. I've seen steamy authors that release really often, and they don't seem to cannibalize their sales at all.
Release the book too. So some of this
that's true.
Only releasing like 20,000 word books, and so then it goes. I just think that there are people who like book like box sets, and there's people who like individual books, because individual books are less of a commitment than a box set is. And I think you're going to find the people who love to have a book every other day, but then the other people who are going to shy away from it. And I think of it like when you go into a store. I used to work at Victoria's Secret. You go into the store and someone comes in, no matter if they need something, if you ask them, can I help you? Their first response is going to be, no, thank you. I'm okay. Every time. And then 2 seconds later, they're coming up to me, can you help me find this? But if I was to disappear, then they would eventually just leave the store and never buy anything. So there's just sometimes you need to give people that little space, that little break to discover, yes, I need to find your book again. I need to read it. And that's why I think 2 to 3 weeks, go read some other people's books, cleanse your palates. And then finally you're like, yes, I could use another Anne Marie Meyer book. I'm going to go buy her new release. That's just my theory, but take from it what you will.
And it depends on your genre too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because I think a lot of women can read romance really fast, but people who read like thrillers or mysteries, it takes a little while to get through. You're not like, oh, I got to find out who's the killer. I got to read all these bloody scenes. I mean, maybe I don't really read thriller, murder, mystery type things, but I'm guessing it. Sometimes you have to kind of take it in stride in reading it. But maybe I'm wrong.
I'm sure thrillers are pretty thrilling. You want to keep turning the pages. Maybe fantasy. I don't know.
Maybe because I watch movies like this when I'm watching scary movies, and I'm like, just make it stop. Just make it stop. Okay.
Michelle, you're muted.
Thanks. Judy's my mic watcher. I'd say like epic fantasy or like literary fiction. I would think those would be things that people didn't, consume as quickly as they do romance.
Yeah, or like my nonfiction stuff that I read, I'll take months sometimes to read them.
Well, even Brandon Sanderson was talking about how within his book he has small story arcs and stuff like that, so people can read it, get their fill of it, and then they can actually find a good stopping point where they can close the book, go away, and come back and read some more.
Because his books are like 800 pages long.
Yeah, so I'm like, I never want someone to close my book, so I need to make sure that they're hooked until the very end.
Yeah, well, like I read the Wheel of Time series, which has like 15 books in it, and they're all majorly long like that. But I didn't read them in like one big long, reading marathon over a few weeks. It was years, and that's kind of the pace of fantasy readers. And they can't read. You couldn't release an epic fantasy series a week apart, every book a week apart. If the Wheel of Time had been released all 14 books a week apart, like, it's just like it wouldn't work at all.
Cannibalize it, because the goal of releasing book 1 is that people have read through to book 2 and are willing to grab it as soon as it launches. But if they haven't finished book 1, then book 2 is going to come around. They'll be like, well, it's already released. That's good to know. But I want to make sure I like book 1 before I read book 2.
Yeah, you want to find the sweet spot of being able to use your 30 days where your book is a new release when people are actually ready to find it.
Because you want to use the momentum from the previous books to release the other books. And that's why having a longer period of time actually won't cannibalize it, because then you're not trying, people have read book 1 and now you can say, here's book 2, go buy it. And you can put all your efforts on releasing book 2 and using Amazon's 30, 60, 90-day clip to help you. Okay, cool. Marianne Davis says, Craig Martell in his book says that an author can use their unpublished backlist. That gives me new attitude since I have dozens of books.
I don't have an unpublished backlist. Do any of you? Like, I have no finished books that I don't have published. But I do have books that maybe shouldn't be published.
Yeah.
That I intend to rewrite and reconfigure because they do need work and they're not doing the job they need to do. But there are also other books that I know I will never make work in the market. And those books, I'm just going to let them do their thing. So and that's kind of what I was saying earlier, like once you have grown and you're a seasoned author and you know what good storytelling is, what good writing is, what good marketing is, what good branding is, then you can go back and look at those books with the eyes of a master in the craft and say, okay, what's so funny, Victorine? Oh, is it the dog?
This is so cute.
As long as it's not me you're laughing at.
No. Not at all.
You didn't see all of a sudden, here comes this dog, head up.
Sorry, she jumped on my lap, so I'm like,
see, where was I? We got like dog laughing going
Once
on.
you become a master.
Yeah, then you go back and you look at those books with fresh eyes and you say, okay, is this book something I can salvage? Is it something I can twist or tweak or, turn into something new so that I can put it on the market and have it work for me? Because, I hear somebody, okay, I get on my soapboxes every once in a while. I keep hearing all these things lately about how you have to write 10 million words before you can publish a book, or you should write 10 million books before you should publish. And that's just the biggest load of malarkey, because people can write 10,000 words and have something ready to publish, and people can write 100 million words and still be producing crap. Okay? So it's not about the words, it's about the level of talent and the level of craft that you have developed and how much you've been learning through the years. So people who just have all these books metaphorically stored under their bed may have treasures there that they could do something with. They may be in a rough form and they may need editing, but if you have words and you have a story just sitting around collecting dust, then make it work for you, because you spent time on that. And yeah, you learned in the process and grew, and yeah, it did good work for you, but it's still sitting there not earning its space in the world. So make it work for you. I think that's what Craig is saying. Like, those are.
You're never going to learn if you're just doing everything in theory.
Right. That's true.
Because it's not only writing a book, but it's publishing a book and then getting reviews and getting the bad reviews and being like, oh, I should maybe not do that in the future. Those kinds of things that you're never going to get if they're just sitting in your. And I think the million word thing, to me, that's more a trad-minded idea, because you are submitting and resubmitting and getting new ideas and getting to learn writing better. With indie author publishing, there's so much more feedback you can get right away when you publish something. Not that I'm saying you should just go out and publish your first book. My first book will never see the light of day. Nice Michelle has hope for her previous books. I have no hope for this book, so it will just be in my computer as my baby that I learned everything on. So
I didn't say all of my early books, just some of them.
So, but I think getting out there and learning the publishing world and how to not only be a writer, but be a marketer as well, you will learn so much stuff that will help you, even with trad publishing, learn this is what I should do, this is what I should do, this is what I shouldn't do. So then you're not wasting those million words on words that aren't really going to do anything.
So, like, for example, let's say you wrote some kind of a paranormal thing, and it was so cliche and had been overdone, and none of the publishers you submitted wanted anything to do with it because that market was way saturated in last week's news. And so you submitted to 100 different agents and publishers and got 100 rejections. And so you thought, oh, apparently my book is crap. And so you put it away and started something else. Well, guess what? Those tropes always come back around again. All you have to do is watch the market. If some, like werewolf or vampire or mermaid or whatever it is becomes really big, and you've got a book sitting there written with that trope that the publishers didn't want, guess what? Readers want it. So all you need to do is clean it up and get it out there, because those things will eventually come around again and sell. So just because publishers and agents doesn't want it has absolutely no bearing on whether or not it might be a feasible product for you to sell at some point.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
You're making me really wish I had all these books that I didn't publish.
I know, me too. Like,
I published every single one.
So much longer ago than now.
I have books that have cobwebs on my KDP reports page because like the sales don't come often enough to clear them away, but none collecting dust.
Nice. Okay, so Don Minshall Morton asks, I'm writing my first contemporary romance novel, and I'm wondering if I'm writing book 2 while book 1 is getting arc read and edited. Is it a bad idea to put out a small snippet of the first chapter from book 2 in your back matter? If it's your first book, other than your newsletter link and author page group, what else can you put in the back matter? I think it's a great idea.
That's a good idea.
What I did.
Do it.
Yeah, do it. If you have it.
From all the writing gals, do that. Pull the reader in to the next book and get them interested.
Maybe get it proofread first. Make sure that it's, don't.
And realize that you're probably committing to that first chapter. I mean, you can change it, and I don't think people will mind a whole lot, but make sure that is the name you're going to name the next character and all that kind of stuff, because you're kind of making a commitment to your reader by having it in there. And then I don't really put much else in my back matter except for my link to my books and my group. I like to keep things simple. Plus, with Amazon's 10% rule, I'm like, the less I have, the better.
Yeah.
Okay. Sally Hansen says, what read-through percentage is needed for positive ROI on ads? So for this, that's a really loaded question. So it depends on, what are you pointing at?
I was trying to point at you, knowing it, but it's really hard to figure out which way your fingers.
There it is. I got it.
We talked about doing the Brady Bunch thing at one point, like, hi, Judy.
Like the Brady Bunch. So I guess this is a loaded question. I would say any positive ROI is good ROI. Obviously, 700 times return on investment is really good, but 5, 10, 20% is good too. So, I mean, it's not the greatest, and I'd have to reevaluate, is that where you want to tie up your capital, is in these ads, because Amazon pays on a 60-day lag. So I would say it just depends. I mean, if you have 0 ads and everything you make is all complete positive ROI because you have 0 ads. I would say, you got to give ads some time to give you some data, but be willing to kill ads, be willing to say this book's just not going to sell right now, and I got to be okay with that and let it go. You'll have books that sell like hotcakes, and you'll have books that don't do anything. So be willing to kill the darlings when you have enough data to say, yes, this is not good. Heather, go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, one thing that people might take into consideration is that their 2-month lag between when you earn and when you get paid. So like, even if you're making a somewhat decent return on your ads that you're spending, remember, you're not actually going to get that money for 2 months. And so if you need that money to reinvest before you can spend ads again, you might want to think, okay, well, the money I have now actually needs to last me for 3 months, or, all of this month, and then the 2 months until I get paid, kind of what I think. And so you probably need to take into consideration like how quickly you scale things up as to what your budget actually needs to be. And then maybe if your return on investment is like super crazy high, then maybe go ahead and blow it all in the first month. Who knows? And count on the rank to keep you holding. But just remember, I think that's why I have such a hard time with ads, because I don't necessarily have the money to carry me until I start getting that income coming in from the ad spend. So it's like this tricky thing you got to get ahead of in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Heather Yates asks, how would you market a novella or a serial as opposed to a full length? Are there distinct differences? Well, I think with a novella or a serial, KU is a lot harder to make a profit in, just because it's so little page reads. I would write a longer novella and then market it the same. So I would make sure my novella is 30, 35, 40,000 words and then publish it. 20,000 words, 99 cents is probably what I would publish it at, and then maybe get some pages. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I've published nothing but 30,000 word novellas all year, except one full length. And, I'm still doing well. And I think that the point with it is that I don't market it like it's a short book necessarily. And I don't have readers complain about the length very often. And if they do complain, it's more like, I love this book, I just wanted more. But they don't say, I hated this book because it was too short. You know what I'm saying? I think if you write the story to where it feels like a a complete story and they have a satisfactory experience with it, then market it like it's a book. And I don't put like, this is a 30,000 word novella at the bottom
Don't
of
do it in
it.
the short story section of Amazon because I think it turns people off.
Yeah, I think Amazon sticks it in there. Sometimes you don't ask for it if it's really short. But as far as like promotions, the only thing you have to be aware of is that there are some paid newsletter sites that have word limit restrictions where you have to have at least a certain amount before they'll allow your book. And so if you know a certain newsletter company works really well for you, then you may want to make sure that you're hitting their word count requirements.
Yeah, and BookBub, I think they have to be 150 pages, right?
Yeah. But there are sites that don't care, and there are ways to do it otherwise. And to me, the only benefit that kind of weighs against the reduced page reads is just the sheer amount of titles that you can get out. And it's kind of the concept where if you can write 30,000 words, get a book out, and then spend that next 20,000 that might make it like the full length, you're already 10,000 words shy of the next book getting out. And so then you can have, 60,000 words in the same amount of time out, but you have 2 titles and you've had 2 releases. And so it's kind of like, it's just how quickly you can get them out. And, that all depends on if you have good read through. If you don't have good read through, then that can kick you in the butt. But if you do have good read through, then it can work because you can constantly have like a new release and have the excitement and have the rank and have it boosting your other book back up. And so there are some pros and cons, and I do want to start getting into longer lengths towards the end of this year and next year. But if I want to get a series out quickly, then I have no problem doing novella length.
Well,
I
read a post of somebody who was saying that she markets her books at full price. And so if she writes an extra 10,000 words in a book, she's still only getting that full price amount. Yeah. So I think you also have to pay attention to what you're going to sell your book at, because a lot of us say sell your book at 99 cents and you'll make the money through the page reads. But if their book is only 20,000, 25,000 words, then their page reads aren't going to be coming in at that higher profit level. And then it also cuts into your profits, because then you're going to market it. It's going to cost the same amount of money to market your book, but you're going to get much less page reads and you're marketing it at 99 cents. So you kind of have to be really intentional with however you're going to market them. And you have to say, okay, if I do it this way, what are my profits going to be? And if I do it this way, what are my profits going to be? And then you market according to what, because you want to end up with positive profits.
Yeah, and a lot of that might have to do with your percentage of page reads to sales, as how much of your income constitutes, your income. But I have no idea if that made sense what I just said. But I will say that novellas, like I said, I've written entirely novellas this whole year except one full-length Regency, and I've made $70,000 this year with like $1,500 in ad spend, and that's counting like newsletter promos. So it's possible to make money writing novellas without ads, but you just have to do it hitting the right markets, and you have to do it by releasing more rapidly. And the whole point of this is like, well, how do you make money without releasing rapidly? I don't know that you can make money writing novellas if you're not putting them out quickly.
Yeah.
So I mean, you just have to understand, like, if you're somebody who wants to make money by only releasing 1 or 2 books a year, then they need to be full length. They need to be as long as you can get them. You're not going to make good money releasing twice a year if you're only writing novellas.
Right. And if that's the case, then what I would probably do is release each at 99 cents, do small newsletter swaps, no really paid promos until you get your box set. Put a box set together, and that's the one that you push. Okay, so last question. Laura Rollins asks, I find it hard to schedule everything out in advance properly so that the rapid release goes smoothly. Content edit, covers, in line edits, betas, etc. How do you plan several months in advance for when you are writing so fast? I think you think we're more polished than we actually are, because half the time we're like, oh crap, I forgot to send it to my beta readers. I got to send it to my people, my ARC readers. You have 2 days to download this and read it and get a review up. So I think you think we're a lot. Or we're like, crap, I have to get my book done now, because if not, I have to pay a rush fee to my editor.
Yeah, I have to have people on my team who can move fast. Like there are editors that have like 6-week or 8-week, schedules. Like you have to schedule 8 weeks ahead of time, or they take 4 weeks to edit your book. I can't work with those people. They may be incredible, but I can't work with them. I need people. My editing team, which I feel is like, I love my editors so much. And they are fast and they know me and they're willing to keep up with me. And yes, I pay them extra to do the work. I pay 30% extra in rush fees to get things done when I need them done sometimes, because I'm always behind. And that's just how it is. That's my process. That's what I do. And so I've found the professionals who are able to work on my timeline, because no, I don't have a whole month or 2 months to get my editing done. I am turning my books around from one editor to the next editor to the next editor as quickly as I possibly can. And sometimes I have a second proofreader on a book the day my book is going live, because I like to get 2 sets of eyes on that proofread, and I don't always have time to do that before it goes live. And that's just my process. And sometimes I launch a book and I'm like, I don't have any newsletters set up. None. But guess what? It's not too late, because I slow release. So it worked for me to have nothing the first few days. And then I just try and build it, into the next couple weeks that I've got going ahead. So yeah, I flub things. I drop the ball a lot. I procrastinate perpetually. That's my life. But you find people on your team who can do things the way you need them to be done to make it happen. So
yeah. And then if that doesn't work for you, because that makes me crazy. My last release, I tried to do the whole fast thing, and it just, I'm not writing now because I burned myself out too much. So just you can just set them up, but be okay with holding them for a little while to make the time for that. Like I know Elena Johnson, she has the book sitting for a few months that are already written before she publishes, and she writes really fast and she publishes a lot. But so it just depends on your personality and what you think you can handle, and just what works for you.
She also got ahead of the curve by not publishing and getting a couple books before she started off a couple books in the chute. Like I've never gotten caught up to that.
Yeah. So if you're able to hold on to books for a little longer to make it so that you can get to that point, then that's probably a way to not have as much stress in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And pre-orders are what stress me out, because realistically, I'm my own boss and I'm setting my own deadlines, and I'm the one that's deciding when things have to get out. And that's only true as long as I don't have a pre-order. If I've set a pre-order, then Amazon and that date are my boss.
Yeah.
And that adds a lot more stress to my life than I think is necessary, which is probably another reason why I am wanting to get away from pre-orders, because I definitely had some pre-order stress over the summer.
Yeah. My favorite pre-orders was when I had the book finished and sent to my editor, and then I set up the pre-order.
Nice.
That one was fine.
But then why didn't you just release the book?
Because my editor takes 4 weeks. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I don't ever set up a pre-order if I haven't already started it. So I have to be at least 3,000-4,000 words into it to set the pre-order up. Because other than that, unless it's like I just set up a pre-order for my last Braxton Brother one, and I'm like, well, I know I'm going to have to write it, and I know what it's going to be about because it's number 5, so I'll be okay. But you have to set up a pre-order. You have to know the plot of your book and write it down in an interesting way. And part of me is like, I don't really know what my plot's going to be. So, yeah.
Trouble with being a pantser, right?
Yeah. Well, her ex, I knew what that was going to be about. So literally the entire time my book's been on pre-order, the blurb is her ex is off limits. That's the entire blurb. So,
yeah.
It's gotten pre-orders, but I think it's because it's book number 4. So people who liked all 3 of them before are going to pre-order it. So,
yeah.
And yet, what else do people really need to know?
No, I know exactly. My cover shows it. So
buying that.
Yeah, right. Or what was it? My my rule number 3 for those 12 words. It was a blur. It was my tagline.
It was supposed to be a practice kiss. Oops.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you can come up with fun things. Anyways, we detract from what we were talking about. So, do we have any questions in our YouTube channel?
We do. Yeah. Let's start on them. Diana says, would you rewrite your first book if it did not sell as well as you first thought? You guys are making me laugh.
I'll keep reading. At what level of sales would you rewrite your first book? Okay. If it did not sell, and you like, I would ask other victories. Let's have fun. If it didn't sell, I would definitely get some like beta readers on it or other people to read it and see if it's not selling because it does need to be written again. So yeah, I would check on that first. And then if it does need to be written, yeah, go ahead and then republish it and try and give it a second chance. Because if it didn't sell, then not that many people are going to know that it was up before. And they'll be happy to see it later when it's nice and shiny.
Well, and you have to decide whether or not it's worth it for your efforts to put it in to rewrite the first book you ever wrote. I mean, you could take everything that you've learned and you could say, let's write new book with my new knowledge. And just let that one die and then maybe take it down and just, put it as an archive in your office.
Yeah,
you
that's
can
true.
Smile at.
See, I'm the person who rewrote and revised her book, her first one, for 5 years. So,
Who's like with my editor, accept. This book is 2 books beyond me and I don't care anymore. Just get it out into the world. So.
Yeah, I think that it's problem of trying to figure out if you think you can revise it enough to make it worth the while, or if it's better just put the effort into writing the next book. Part of it might be that you didn't find the right audience and not an actual problem with the book. And, a lot of that is just diagnostic, and you're never going to figure it out unless you try a lot of different things. And I've even heard of authors who went into it with the mindset of trying to find a career and not just like publishing the book they wanted to write. And they would publish like 2 or 3 books in different places and see which one did the best. And then they'd be like, okay, that's the direction I'm going. Thriller didn't do good for me. Cozy Mysteries didn't do good for me, but sci-fi did great for me. So I'm headed to sci-fi. It just depends on what kind of personality you are. If that book was like the book of your heart that you've been wanting to write since you were a teenager and you finally got it done and it's just not selling, is it going to be something that you're even able to rewrite? Because I've seen myself and other authors that were so emotionally bound and tied to a book and the story that they couldn't take the scalpel to it and change it into something that would sell. And so, she's at what level of sales? And I would say if you're not making, it's really hard to say, because what do they say most authors actually even earn in their lifetime, or like most authors don't even sell more than 100 copies of a book in their career. So, but I would say if that's all you're selling, then there's room for improvement, obviously. Right? I mean, level of sales, it's so subjective.
It's subjective, and I think the answer is different with every person, right? Because I know somebody who took down their books and rewrote them and put them back up and did phenomenally well with the rewrites. And then I know other people who just, like you said, can't rewrite that because that was a huge chunk of their personality and their heart. So yeah, it's kind of a personal decision, I think. All right. Diana also asks, would you suggest selling your book at Amazon for 99 cents for a second book sell-off? So I think we already discussed that. Yes, go ahead and put the first one at 99 cents if it leads into the second one, and that's a good strategy. And Stephanie asks, free days only on first in series. I have 2 series right now, and the first in series are 99 cents already. So it feels like, what else can I really do with my backlist?
So if they're standalone, like my series, my Ridgewater High series, I've done free days on the first 4 books of that, and each one has done well. So, yeah.
We have more questions up there. Do you see
Yeah, we
Diana's
do.
question? Oh, and Autumn's question?
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm going backwards.
Ah, okay.
Tricky.
All right, Sarah asks, what do you do to build your backlist when your newsletter is just beginning? I have 4 subs. I'm about to release book 3 in a series.
Try and get more subscribers is what I would do. Like, yeah, I didn't.
I would try some book funnel promos if you just can't get anybody else. And yeah, not all of them will be quality, but at least you'll be getting numbers to try and, start getting people to figure out if they like. You might get massive unsubscribes. You never know. But, I was looking at stats on my website, on my newsletter today. And of the last 10 subscribers I got, 7 of them came from my pop-up on my website. So people think, oh, pop-ups are annoying and they don't work. Well, I get a lot of subscribers from the pop-up on my website. So if you aren't, maximizing your website to collect people that are there, then you're hurting yourself. So people only go to your website if they are really interested in your books and who you are. And so you need to have it really, really, really easy for them to subscribe to your newsletter. So I think, that's something that a lot of people avoid because they think pop-ups are so horrible, but I've got the numbers. I probably could look it up in the past. I think my pop-up accounts for most of my subscribers that I get organically.
That's great. All right. Dana asks, how far ahead of a launch should you start doing promo for your new book without worrying about burning readers out before they get the book?
I think it depends on what kind of promo you're doing. Like with me, I will talk about what I'm working on in my newsletter a little bit, like when I'm starting it. But if you're paying for promo, I don't know. Amy kind of talked about it a little bit. But
I don't think you really worry about burning your reader out. You might annoy them, so maybe keep it relevant, but keep it new information. Don't keep it the same old stuff that you're selling, make it interesting and worthwhile to them. Then they'll listen. If you just are like, buy my book, they might be annoyed with it. But I think getting them excited, excerpts, blurb, talking about each of the characters and who they are and what they're like.
this song inspired something in my book.
Yeah. But the thing with this is that you need to be genuine. And if it's not something you genuinely want to do, then people can feel that and they won't care as much as you do. So I would say either do it because you love to do it or don't do it, because I think readers can feel that just disingenuous attitude about it.
Yeah, and if I'm going to be real, an indie author is going to have a completely different experience than traditional authors will have. If they have a publisher behind them, building hype, sending out, paperback arcs to big time reviewers and bloggers, and they're putting ads in places all over the place, and they're building up that hype, all, and their pre-orders are $16 a book and, all this crazy stuff. Then yeah, that pre-order stage is hugely, massively, unquestionably important for the traditional publishers, because they have so much invested in a book that they have to have that book selling the day it hits the stores. Like, it has to be flying off the shelves. That is not the time for them to start trying to convince people that they want to buy this book. But for an indie, it's a completely different thing. Because for one thing, we're not going to have the national push and in bookstores, and we're not going to have the Twitterverse going crazy about us. Unless you are a really big indie author, most of us are not going to have that kind of momentum going into a launch no matter what we do. And so for me, the majority of the time, I'm going to put all my effort, because I only have so much time and so much money, I'm going to put it all into my launch. And anything I do before that is going to be something that's quick and fast and doesn't cost me like anything or much at all, because it's not going to propel readers. I want that money and that time spent when the people can go, oh, this is awesome. I want this, click and buy right then. And so all of my efforts are for launch the majority of the time. And that's just what I think the best thing is for indie authors, unless they're like a really big name in the indie world.
I agree. All right. Diana asks, if you had a choice to make money, which would you choose, more novellas or a few novels? We kind of talked about that.
I write novels. I can't write a novella. I try. Doesn't work.
I just play with it, right? I've written both, and I'm just seeing what's going to bring me the most money coming in and what I enjoy doing. So, yeah, try it both ways.
Yeah. My preference is to do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do it based on what the book requires.
Yeah. All right. I'm wondering how much, sorry, Autumn says, I'm wondering how much of a backlist you ladies have.
Like 25 books.
I have 10 books.
I'm at 20, but they're in all different genres, so I don't think it counts as much.
I just finished my 20th too, so we're the same.
Twinsies.
I got half as many as you guys.
Yeah, but they're like mostly
Just kidding.
I think that's all our questions, unless somebody else. Oh yeah, maybe a couple more new ones down here. Let's see. Do book series sell better than standalone books, or vice versa?
Yeah, definitely have your books in a series.
They sell better. I think.
They don't have to all be about the same characters. Like you can be standalone in a series. But yeah, series is the best way to do it, because then you can maximize your ads or just the power of read through.
And it is super easy to tie standalone books together in a series.
Yep.
Like just any common little trope and name it your series after that trope, and boom, you got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, don't overcomplicate it.
Or set in the same town or something, you know.
Yeah, in the same town, same high school, same character, a different character will show up in the next book.
Yep.
All right, Michelle, what's your website? Autumn wants to know.
It is michelle-pennington.com. There's a real estate agent out there somewhere that is michellepennington.com, and I'm hoping that someday she lets her website, her domain, go into default and I can grab it. But right now it's michelle-pennington.com.
Awesome.
What you should have done is author michellepennington.com.
Right.
Well, I thought about that too, but we're not always smart, and now I have the domain and it's everywhere. So we're sticking with it. It looks good. When you look at it, it just looks like Michelle Pennington.
Yeah.
But when I have to say it out loud, it's a little clunky.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Stephanie wants to know, do you try to get your paperback and audiobook formats out at the same time as the ebook, or not worry about it until after the launch?
I try to get the paperback out at the same time.
I'm a little less organized. I'm with Michelle down there. Oh, down there.
I try to do the audiobook, but that's because I do rank and I have most visibility, and I sell a lot of audiobooks. So I actually send it to my audiobook artist like before it even launches.
Nice.
So it can, but ACX, it can take 6 weeks for it to go through quality assurance. So the sooner you can get it up, the better it's going to be for you.
All right. Diana wants to know, in your romance genre, does your book sell better with just a mild intimacy or full roll on the hay romance? Just curious.
Well, the steamy authors, they are higher in the store. So
yeah,
that, it has a bigger audience. but it is more flooded also. But
If I was to try and write steamy, though, it would not sell because all of my readers and all of my platform want sweet romance. And so my books sell better with very, very mild intimacy for sure. But that is not anything to do with the lack of attraction and tension and sexual feelings that go on between the two. It's just what actually happens on the page.
Exactly.
It's all about the internal stuff. So,
All right, what company do you use for your audiobooks? I think that's our last question.
We just write ACX. We use ACX. Me and Victorine do our own.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
only have two.
publishing. What?
I only have two out, and they're through Tantor, but
yeah,
that's yeah.
mine are through Tantor also, but I'm thinking of doing some more through ACX. Just do it myself.
My future ones will be through ACX too.
All right, we are done tonight. Thank you guys for staying up late with us. This has been awesome. I'm closing out, and Anne-Marie Meyer should close.
I was like, take it away, Victorine. Victorine's ready to be done.
She was reading the last question. So,
I'm tired.
You all are.
All right, well, go ahead, Amy.
Thanks for staying up late. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Down below.